listening to your brain on air. The program will begin shortly. Enjoy.
Estás escuchando tu cerebro en directo. O programa comenzará en breve. Que lo disfrutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Your Brain on Air. I'm your host, Ollie Vogt Larson, and happy Wisdom Wednesday. If she can't make you scream, she's not worth the cream, folks. Marjorie Taylor Greene, cast aside, thrown asunder by her own party. It's really a sad story if you look at it. She's going out all uncensored like. She is Pierce Morgan Cuck level of uncensored right now, folks. 1974 baby that she is. MTG is going all, oh, baby, give me one more chance. She is going to be honest with you for a change. And listen, I've never doubted her sincerity. Do I believe wholeheartedly that she believes every out there idea that she puts out? Absolutely, because she's a well-researched woman. Doesn't she give the aura of a woman of deep knowledge and someone who just pores over the texts, the books, every historical document you'd want when you're formulating an opinion? Won't you please let MTG back in your heart? It's not her fault, ladies and gentlemen. She was born in a time of wrath. People smoked in their cars with their babies. Now they just vape when they're pregnant. I love how people love pretending that the 70s, 80s were so much worse, but we're just smoking inside again, but we're calling it fine because it's digital. Now, listen, this latchkey girl and Gen Xers like her, they refuse to be pawns in the boomer generation's games anymore. The Donald Trump crew, that older gen, they're on their way out. They know that they're that 70s, 80s crew, they're on their way out. Not the generation like 1970s and 80s, but I mean people born in the 40s and 50s. Those people are on their way out. We understand that. So, Gen Xers finally realized, the timid generation that unfortunately they ended up being, they needed everybody above them to either weaken in their old age or die before they actually would stand up and become the people they always thought they would be. Listen, it was 50 or so years of taking orders, being terrified of, they grew up with these priest from Footloose generation types, and if you were born 65 to 1990, you guys are the ones in power now. Boomers are on their way out. You guys love saying how the boomers are ruining the world. Now, guess what? The Gen Xers are 41% of the House of Representatives. The Blink-182 listeners are now the ones ruining the world. Not the fucking SNL generation, not the Chevy Chases. They're on their way out. They're dead or dying. Anyone over the age of 65 now is a cultural nothing. I'm sorry. Listen. This is not slander on anyone that is belonging to that age group. You still have ways of serving your society. You're just probably not the best to be making laws right now, in all honesty. It's Gen Xers setting the vibe, the tone from now on. You 90s and 80s kids who loved whining about how dumb your parents were and how you'd change it all when you'd fix it when you get to their age. Well, guess what? Now you're their age, and somehow you know less than they ever did. Gen Xers, folks, they're leading the way, and millennials will come soon after them. Then it's my generation, the Zoomers. We're going to come and just nuke the world, quite frankly. We're no better than you. In fact, we're worse. We're the materialism and the addiction of your parents, the boomer generation, with the pseudo-spiritual intellectualism of your generation, the 80s and the 90s babies. We're pretending to be enlightened, but we still like to get high because we don't like the truth that we end up finding. Gen X is coming to save us all, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe this generation can write the course that we're all on. Come on, Michael Jackson generation. You guys... You are the world. You are the children. Remember, you are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. There's a choice you're making. We're saving our own lives. It's true. We make a better day, just you and me. MTV kids, it's your time. Rise up and talk about how your boomer leaders want to cover up sexual assault just like MTG is doing in this clip, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not even sure that she wants this clip to be played right now, but I'm gonna.
Forget it. I was in my office in the Rayburn building, and I got a phone call from the president. And he was at the White House, and he wanted to talk to me about the discharge petition that I'd signed my name on. And he said, Marjorie, you're going to have to take your name off that discharge petition. We can't let, this is a hoax. We can't carry this. This is a hoax. It's a Democrat hoax. And we've got to just put this away and stop doing this. And he said, my friends are going to get hurt. He said his friends would get hurt if we released the Epstein files. He said, Marjorie, these are good people. These are people you know at Mar-a-Lago. People in Palm Beach, they're going to get hurt by this. And I said, Mr. President, people have been hurt. These women have been hurt. I said, have you talked to them? I said, you should talk to them.
And then he goes, have you heard of something called a 401k? Have you heard of something called, have you heard of something called Swiss francs? Have you heard of something called business ventures that really are just excuses for you to cover up how you've been poisoning rivers in Chad or whatever? Have you heard of money, so much money that your head would spin, Marjorie Taylor Greene? Maybe you just don't understand it because you're a broke bitch.
You should have them in the Oval Office, Mr. President. You have everybody in the Oval Office. You have sports teams. You have world leaders. You have al-Qaeda terrorists that are now leading Syria. You have Mom Donnie. I mean, you have everybody in the Oval Office. Surely you can have these women who were raped as teenagers. Talk to them. I talk to them all the time. As a matter of fact, many of them voted for you. That's what I told them. They voted for you. Epstein victims voted for Donald Trump. And he wouldn't have anything to do with them. And he told me his friends would get hurt.
Awesome.
And I said, I'm not taking my name off the discharge petition. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well... Gen Xers, do you want to be starting something? How about you start fixing your country? I mean, that might be a good place to start. Quit giving money to pedophiles. You don't need that Aerosmith album. I don't care what Gary Glitter did. I love Rock and Roll Part 2, but I don't need it on vinyl. In case you didn't know, your favorite rock stars are the real vampires. They make the 16-year-old fans disappear. This is like, I can't say the band names, but I'll give examples of the type of music they play. It's like, I don't know. I'm not saying these bands are guilty of anything. This is a satirical show. The Clash, Black Sabbath, every major like heavy metal rock group. How else do you think those white dudes look like Night of the Living Dead? It's like, I'm just going to be honest with you. They are siphoning the energy from the people that go missing as roadies for them. I'm just being honest. And if you don't like it, I don't know what else to say, folks. They say the sky's the limit, and for me, that's really true. But my friend, you haven't seen nothing. Just wait till we get to the stories this show, because this show, it's bad. It's really, really bad. Just to fit in one more 80s baby reference. Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and Michael cannot Motown sing you the truth about the Strait of Hormuz, so I can. Lock in, ladies and gents. We are going to get into the Middle East veggies before we get into the dessert of the sex offender getting the death penalty. I know. We have a lot on the docket for today's episode, so let's begin with the Middle East. Go. We got just one day in after launching the massive military escort mission in the Middle East. We've been covering this Project Freedom shit. And apparently, President Trump has already announced late Tuesday that the U.S. is already pausing it in the Strait of Hormuz. He cited great progress in diplomatic talks with Tehran, claiming that a complete and final agreement to end the months-long war may be within reach. Well, okay, what does the end really look like here? The pause, according to him, comes after the request from mediators in Pakistan and follows a 48-hour period of intense naval skirmishes that threatened to shatter a fragile month-old ceasefire. The escort operation, which was designed to guide hundreds of stranded tankers through the blockaded waterways, on hold. The U.S. is not backing down entirely, though. According to him, he's made it clear that the naval blockade of the Iranian ports is remaining in full force and effect. Well, then, what do you? They've already made it clear that they have no interest in having a real ceasefire, a real deal to end the war until you unblock their ports. All right, whatever. They're saying this is to maintain pressure on the regime. And it's not to say that we didn't do very much when the operation was happening. We saw a lot of fireworks, to say the least. The U.S. reported that it sank 7 Iranian attack boats that tried to interfere with the first guided convoys. And despite the president's optimism, the situation on the water is still remaining precarious, according to people who are seeing it. Just as the pause was announced, reports surfaced of a cargo vessel being struck by a projectile. And the United Arab Emirates reported on a second day of drone and missile alerts. Oh, fun. And then we got Secretary of State Marco Rubio emphasizing that while the offensive phase of war, Operation Epic Fury is over, the U.S. remains ready to respond if fired upon. You know what? Actually, we're going to play a quick Rubio clip, which is him downplaying the fact that gas across the country right now is at an average price of $4.50, and it's and my heart started to break. My Midwest heart started to break once gas prices touched $4 here just this last week. It was tragic. The area I was in was holding out with the high threes, but god damn it, they just crossed over, and now it's over. And now Marco Rubio is going to tell you why that's not a big deal. Tell me, give it to me straight, big ears.
The price of gas in the country right now is $4.50. Do you have a thought on how long Americans are supposed to kind of accept this? Do you think it will affect Republicans' majorities in the midterms?
Well, I'm not going to speculate on the politics of it. You can tell me
what. You're a politician who won't speculate on the politics? That's a lawyer. You go to a lawyer and he goes, I can't speculate on the law of that situation.
Look, it's obviously being driven by global events. That was true during the Russia-Ukraine war as well, where you saw that come up. Look, we don't benefit from the straits as much as other countries. I don't know if you've seen what the gas prices are like in other parts of the world that are really suffering big time.
Oh my God, if the Biden administration was doing this level of hey, other countries are worse, then every Trump supporter would have been like, that's our government refusing to take responsibility.
So we're very fortunate that the United States, I believe right now, is like the world's largest net exporter of oil and natural gas as a result, not because of this war, but because we have this capacity. So we've been insulated to some degree. We're obviously still vulnerable to some extent to global prices, and so...
To some extent. I want to make it clear, though, to everybody why this war is actually... Okay, if you want to take a 4D chess image perspective on it, I'm going to say something that is going to sound crazy to people who are going, Trump's an idiot, he's getting into this war, he doesn't really know what he's doing, he's breaking up ties with the European Union, he's making America a much more isolated country, he's going after territory around the Americas. Most people see all of these actions and they go, it's the mind of somebody who doesn't understand politics and is actively trying to just get their agenda through, but they don't realize the consequences. Well, let's take for a second the idea that maybe he does understand the consequences. What are the consequences of this? The rest of the world, more specifically, what are the three regions of the world that do not export more oil than they import? These three regions include Europe, East Asia, and Oceania, more specifically Australia. These regions are going to be incredibly dependent on outward sources of oil. Now, when it comes to how much the United States produces, we're actually pretty net neutral. We have enough so to where when it comes to our reserves, we would be able to power up our own economy. We would be able to start if we wanted to get another oil boom running. You could absolutely start putting out more derricks. You could start signing more leases for people to start tilling more land. Not tilling, that's farming, but like getting out there on the land, surveying, and then fucking actually selling it off to these people who are going to make a profit with it. The Americas are sitting on a vast sea of oil. And then once Canada becomes the 51st state, as maybe he wants it to be, then we would just tap all of their oil reserves. Then we tap Venezuela's reserves. Eventually, when we create Pax Americana 2.0, Pax Americana, for many who are uninitiated, was the state of relative world peace after 1945 that was established mostly by the American superpower, that was established after the fall of every other major world power at that time. Soviets were really the only major competitor after that. The Brits were kind of in a state of shock. Their industry was wrecked. It was absolutely, they bombed out, whatever. We don't have time to get into all of this. Trump wants to create a vision of America where the United States is, instead of being involved in this transnational, we are in this global alliance. He realizes that the world is becoming multipolar. He realizes that we're becoming a world where the Chinese are trying to get their currency in the hands of more oil importers, people who are working on docks. Chinese want their currency to be the world reserve, and they are the direct competitors for the reason that the naval blockades and whatnot, everything, the world runs off of the United States guaranteeing the safety of the waterways, is because the United States has always been the major power when it comes to the military. They're beginning to build up their military in East Asia. They're beginning to in other regions of the world. I do see that the Chinese are watching our conflict in Persia, in Iran, and they do see it as a positive to them. They see us breaking down elements of our military. They're also seeing that a lot of our military tech is not as sophisticated as we claimed it was. A lot of our military tech, these F-1s, these major ones that we've had in development for 30, maybe 50 years, they were built for 2-week-long conflicts. A lot of these things are breaking down. A lot of these things they're repair-wise in the gutter. And the United States, unfortunately, is proving to be a little less able to just decimate than was originally believed. People are realizing that the United States was most of the time just flexing its power in a lot of these instances. They were bombing pirates and things like that. Let's get back to the original point. Trump, whether you see it or not, recognizes that the world is becoming multipolar. If you don't know what that means, it means that we have multiple superpowers now around the world, rather than the America-centric model that we're all comfortable and familiar with, that has been mostly the reason for our incline in economy. We've gutted out industry. There's no factories anymore and whatnot. We're getting rid of that mostly in America. Sure, Trump's trying to get it back. He's trying to create an insulated technate state, essentially. If you don't know, it's sort of the idea that we're going to become independent. We're going to eventually maybe wash people's money. We're going to have a massive national wipeout of banks. We don't want people to be getting money from their parents' bank accounts. We don't want them to be getting it all through via inheritance. We're going to maybe have a false flag type operation where we knock out all of the world's banks, and eventually that'll just create a global reset where you have to resort to a different form of currency. Maybe it's something created by AI. This is when you get really deep into the idea that people want to create a brand new world. But whatever. Marco Rubio clearly is just. I don't think that he has all of this on his mind. I think he has on his mind, how am I going to kill J.D. Vance before 2028?
But in the end, we're more insulated than other countries, even though that's not welcome news to Americans that are paying more at the pump, no doubt about it. And it certainly is one of the circumstances of it. There are people that we're predicting would be much higher at this point, but we're not taking that for granted. Suffice it to say that think about it this way. Everybody needs to think about it this way. If Iran had a nuclear weapon, and they decided to close the straits and make our gas prices like $9 a gallon or $8.
He's the American Bibi Netanyahu. Marco Rubio is the American Bibi Netanyahu. If Iran had a nuclear weapon today... By the way, Iran has the uranium. They could make a nuclear bomb in 10 weeks. And if that terrifies anybody, it should.
A gallon, we wouldn't be able to do anything about it because they have a nuclear weapon. And a nuclear-armed Iran could do whatever the hell they want with the straits, and there's nothing anyone would be able to do about it. And that's one of the many reasons, apart from the massive loss of life in a nuclear strike, why Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. So this is an example of, if they had a nuclear weapon, they closed the straits and they would tell the world, what are you going to do about it? We have a nuclear weapon, we can attack you with it. That's the world none of us want to leave behind. It won't happen under this president's watch, but some future president and in the future Americans will have to deal with this. So just one more example of why these guys can never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon.
Well, that was not the original question. The original question was about gas prices, but excellent pivot. Let's get a little bit of an update from ABC News about how much winning, quite frankly, is going on. Winning!
Just 48 hours after saying the U.S. would help guide stranded cargo ships through the Strait of Hormuz, President Trump announcing he is pausing Project Freedom for a short period of time. Warning this morning, if Iran does not make a deal, the bombing starts. Trump writing on social media, it will be at a much higher level and intensity than it was before. Just hours earlier, Secretary of State Marco Rubio dubbed Project Freedom the next stage of the war.
The operation is over.
This is very similar to how I used to have arguments with my sibling. This is very similar to the state of mind of you are not willing to come to the table. You're not willing to see me for who I am. You're not willing to listen to me. Ergo, I'm not willing to listen to you. It's just circles and circles and circles. It's the way that kids argue. It's the way that eventually you grow past that. You know what I mean? You grow past that stage of arguing with your sibling where it's just circles and circles of, no, I'm actually correct. No, I'm actually correct. And then you're not actually even listening to each other's points. You get past that point eventually, but on the national scale, I don't know that humans are ever able to evolve past that point.
Epic fury is the president notified Congress. We're done with that stage of it. Okay, we're now on to this Project of Freedom.
But it's unclear what, if any, progress.
Every single argument, the nuclear option is everybody's threatening, I'm going to go get mom.
There's been negotiations between the U.S. and Iran. It's the latest of several reversals for the war that's now in its 10th week. The president launched Operation Epic Fury on February 28th. On April 7th, both sides agreeing to a ceasefire. And then on Sunday, the president announced Project Freedom, only to pause it 2 days later. This morning, the Strait of Hormuz remains at a virtual standstill. Only 2 commercial ships crossing under Project Freedom, more than 1,500 lined up waiting.
What are you going to do?
Amid uncertainty about the state of the fragile ceasefire. Iranian state media airing this video claiming to show the Iranian military firing warning shots at U.S. Navy ships near the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. retaliating, sinking 6 Iranian military boats. Secretary Rubio claiming that response is just part of a new phase of the war.
We are only responding if attacked first. This is a defensive operation.
The president insisting that the ceasefire is still in place.
Kind of like how NATO is a defensive organization.
They fired at U.S. ships several times in the last 24 hours. What do they need to do to violate the ceasefire?
Well, you'll find out, because I'll let you know. They know what to do, and they know what to do. And they know what not to do, more importantly.
So the president is still set to head to China next week for a trip that was supposed to be focused on trade. Overnight, we saw Iran's foreign minister land there for meetings with his Chinese counterpart, as China says they're willing to play a greater role in brokering peace in the Middle East, George.
And Rachel, here at home.
You know what? Actually, Iran is perfectly fine to have China negotiate the peace. Iran is actually hoping that China is involved in negotiating this peace. Do you know why? It makes the United States look like they're on the same level as this tiny state in the Middle East. It looks like we need China to be the bigger power that steps in. This is similar to how the United States was big on peace negotiations back in the 70s. You can look at peace accords. You can look at 60s. People were going all around, and we were like, let's negotiate these little peace deals between 2 little countries because it establishes that we are dad stepping in. We are the fatherly figure. These are the 2 little states. China would love it for the image, and Iran would love it for the image. Not because it makes them look good, because it makes us look worse.
Oh, and the president had some successes with his Republican retribution campaign overnight.
Yes, George, and it's unusual to see a president get involved in a state legislative primary race and to see so much money be poured in. But the president vowed political payback for a group of Republicans in Indiana who refused to go along with his demands to redraw the congressional maps in that state to favor Republicans. Well, overnight, at least 5 of the 7 candidates the president backed defeated the incumbents, showing the president's influence over Republicans ahead of the midterms election. George.
Rachel Scott, thanks.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Whatever. Middle East, we've gotten through the veggies, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get to some level of dessert. You're going to get to hear me yell at Katie Porter again. The candidates for California governor sparred in a fiery debate recently. It's called the Brawl in Los Angeles, Tuesday night, as 7 leading candidates faced off in a fiery CNN debate. Let's cover it. It was a 2-hour showdown. It saw Republican frontrunners Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco relentlessly attack the state's Democratic one-party rule, blaming it for record-high gas prices and a surging cost of living. Come on, guys, not right now with the gas prices. Your party is in power. You've got a war that no one is supporting. This is not the time. In a particularly sharp exchange, San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan, I think it's Mahan, called out Hilton's promise to drop gas prices to $3 a gallon, bluntly telling the former Fox News host, "You're lying to the people." The night was especially bruising for Democrat Xavier Becerra, I believe, the former U.S. Health Secretary, who found himself the primary target of both parties. Republicans painted him as an extension of the Biden-Trump proxy war. Fellow Democrats like billionaire Tom Steyer accused him of being in bed with oil companies. Becerra fired back, mocking Steyer's own fossil fuel-funded fortune and blaming the current $6 a gallon gas prices squarely on President Trump's ongoing war with Iran. Solid, right? I throw it back, I guess. The tension reached such a pitch that Katie Porter, the only woman on stage, eventually interjected with a viral moment. Boys, enough with the bickering, to try and calm the crosstalk. Katie, enough with the domestic violence, quite frankly. That's enough with the bickering, enough with the beating up your husband. How about that, Katie? Oh, wait, no. Yeah, women can't abuse their husbands, apparently, because apparently they're little and frail. They can't be emotionally abusive. They can't just have those eyes that make you want to pluck them out.
Tonight, the candidates for California governor squaring off in a fiery debate as we get closer to the June primary election. Everything on the table, from soaring gas prices to immigration and the Trump administration. Eyewitness News reporter Liz Nagy joining us now live. Liz, tonight seemed to have a different tone, wouldn't you say?
It sure did, Mark. It was fight night at East Los Angeles College with ballots already in voters' hands and 4 weeks to go until primary election day. 2 Republicans and 5 Democrats clawed at each other in policy disputes and some personal cheap shots. In what's been a relatively dull race for governor, tonight's debate delivered the kind of drama that can get voters' attention.
Desperate to break a streak of long-running Democratic control, conservative commentator and comparatively new Californian Steve Hilton laid blame early.
After 16 years of one-party rule from these Democrats that have given us the highest poverty rate, as you mentioned, the highest unemployment rate, and the highest cost of living in the country.
Mr. Hilton, how can you say that Democrats have it wrong when you can't admit that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election?
Hilton, who has the blessing of President Trump, has earned high polling numbers and silently grinned. The sole Republican competitor, Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, took fire from former State Attorney General Javier Becerra, who's now part of a lawsuit against Bianco for seizing more than 500,000 ballots in the 2025 election.
The sheriff is supposed to enforce the law. In this case, Sheriff Bianco violated the law.
I am elected and tasked with enforcing the law in Riverside County. And part of that is fraud. Election fraud is against the law.
It was Becerra, who's seen a surge of support in recent weeks, who spent much of the debate on the defensive. The former Health and Human Services Secretary struggled to explain his policy on health care.
What we have to do is get to the point where we are covering everyone with something like Medicare for all. So I am absolutely for Medicare for all, and we will get there.
Former Orange County Congresswoman Katie Porter, who unequivocally supports single-payer health care.
Oh, so she's really dumb. So if you support single-payer healthcare and you look at examples like Vermont and you're not able to separate the idea that, like, oh, that's a state with the population of, what's Vermont's population? I'm pretty sure it's like however many million. Oh my God, it's estimated at 644,000. So I'm retarded, but whatever. It's around 500,000. And if a state of less than or around 500,000 people are not able to make single-payer healthcare work, how do you expect, is California the most populous state? Yes, please, I need to know. Yes, it is currently the most populated state with approximately 39.3 to 39.6 million residents. Well, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do except for just, give everybody free money?
I want Javier to answer the question. Do you support California having its own single-payer system?
Katie, the answer there is that Californians don't care what you call it so long as they have affordable health care that they can use to take their child to the doctor.
Good response.
I'd like to use my magic wand.
San Jose Mayor
Your magic wand? She is Dolores Umbridge. Play it back. The witch admitted to being a witch.
Child to the doctor or the hospital.
I'd like to use my magic wand.
I'd like to use my magic wand. This bitch is a witch. I knew she was a fucking witch. I fucking called it. From day one, I saw her fucking nose. I was like, I knew she's a witch. She literally just admitted to using thelmiatic witchcraft on CNN TV. I'm going to play it back for you one more time.
They can use to take their child to the doctor or the hospital.
I'd like to use my magic wand.
I'd like to bring back the witch trials. Katie Porter, listen, I'm not saying we have to burn her. I'm not saying we didn't even do that in America. I'm not saying we have to put her on a chair and dunk her in a river. I'm saying we have to at least put her on trial. We have to at least put her on trial because I think there is enough solid evidence. There is enough solid evidence right here in front of us to convict on on witchcraft. I'm not saying she needs to die for this. This is not a death offense, but it is at least we need to take away her grimoire. We need to take away her spell book. We need to stop this because it is very evident that she is casting spells. The reason this used to be illegal is because people recognize that to some extent, witchcraft is fucky, it's spooky, and whether or not you believe it's real, it sometimes involves killing things. Am I saying that I think she has like a hollowed out hole in her backyard where she just has cat carcass after chicken after goat with its head cut off? Absolutely. And can I prove it? No. But she has admitted to witchcraft and wizardry. This bitch is trained.
They can use to take their child to the doctor or the hospital when they
use my magic wands.
Folks, I originally compared her to the big witch from Hocus Pocus, the one that rides the vacuum cleaner. And she has the same dark curly hair, and she's the one that goes, "We're young," after they take the young girl's life force and whatnot. And she is a Sanderson sister. She is a witch. Katie Porter, report back to us. We need to know whether or not this is true. I'm not saying that this is a whatever offense. This is not a capital offense, but we need to stop you. We have to stop you from killing animals, from doing blood ceremonies. We have to stop you because it's very evident that you might be using this to influence votes. You might be using this to influence people's minds. I'm so sorry, but we need to put an end to it right now.
Mayor Matt Mahan piled on who he called a career politician.
Secretary Becerra always brags about how big the trillion-dollar budgets were that he managed. I'm interested in making government better. The answer isn't always bigger.
Now with a comfortable spot toward the top of polling ahead of the primary, Tom Steyer largely avoided attacks and stuck to his billionaire taxing billionaires stance.
And the truth is, we should be taxing the oil companies because they are getting a windfall profit as a result of the war that the president that they put into office started for no apparent reason. We should be taxing that money. We should send it directly to Californians' pockets.
Democrat Party leaders have been encouraging voters to hold off voting until closer to the election, hoping an enthusiastic frontrunner will emerge and capture a greater portion of the vote. Well, Lady Gaga posted on her social media page ahead of the debate that she was tuning in and taking notes, so perhaps voters are now paying closer attention to what's been a primary of close polling contenders.
Who cares about what Lady Gaga's doing? She is engaged in the blood rituals. She's probably at the blood rituals with Katie Porter. We have the footage. We have the photo. Lady Gaga, do you want to explain putting the spoon in the vaginal canal area of that woman sitting in a bath of blood? Do you want to explain that? Is that just a weird meat dress type thing where we're all supposed to go, "Oh, she's an artist. Oh, she's an artist." Of course, maybe the body was made of gelatin. Maybe the body was made of gelatin and she was just sucking fake blood off of a spoon. Guys, Lady Gaga is involved in the blood ceremonies. I don't know what else what do they expect? Here's a good Californian who only murders 3 babies a year. All right. I don't know. Let's get into the rapid fire section of today's headlines. There's a lot of things you need to know about, a lot of bits and pieces of the news that you need to get caught up on in order to keep your media diet healthy, so I'm here to do that. Let's cover the fact that U.S. debt has now exceeded the country's GDP for the first time since World War II. Disastrous. This is, when it comes to headlines alone, this is one of those ones that feels very, very oof. I don't like that. I don't know if that's where my country should be sitting.
The United States has hit a grim financial milestone. For the first time since World War II, our national debt is now larger than our entire annual economic output. Public debt climbed to $31.27 trillion by the end of April, and that is
Quit buying groceries on Klarna.
Compared to the U.S. Gross domestic product, which is $0.05 trillion less. Now, the numbers are from a nonprofit think tank based in Washington, D.C. I want to bring in CBS News business contributor Javier David. Javier, thank you for your time today. So, first off...
Thank you, Javier.
Here.
Yeah, look, we have these record-shattering stock market valuations that we talk about all the time, but it obscures a very inconvenient and very more important development. In short, we just have a spending problem. Runaway outlays in Washington by both major parties. They keep running ahead of tax revenues. There's no even the slightest pretense of reforms that would rein in all of this deficit spending. And we talk a lot in these debates about discretionary and defense spending. really most of the heat and light in the federal budget really takes place with entitlement spending. So what we're really talking about is Social Security and Medicare. And the lack of revenue means Uncle Sam's got to issue debt in order to cover all of its spending needs, and we're now at this point where the government is just paying more in interest costs, and that's even outstripping Medicare and National Security. So
shit. So we're just digging the hole. We're digging. Dig it up, dig it. Does anybody else like Holes, the one Shia LaBeouf film? It also has Sigourney Weaver in it. She stars as this sort of sheriffy type. So Holes is a film about a reform type school in a desert. I don't know if it's a school or if it's more of like a prison camp setting. It's essentially where there's misbehaved children. Say you have a youngster who's stealing shoes. You could either have a difficult conversation with them. You could, maybe you've done that a couple times. Maybe this is a dangerous minds type youngster where they just you live in a bad area of Chicago. You know that they're no good here, hanging out with their friends, so you send them off to some fucking camp to get set straight. So they at this camp, John Voight plays this guard type of figure. There's a doctor, Mr. Pendansky. It's a great movie, quite frankly, and I'd recommend everybody else watch it. Shia LaBeouf, he's young in it, and he actually whatnot. This is at a time where I think people enjoyed working with him because he hadn't formulated a full personality yet, where he hadn't developed his full dick aura. He was mostly still a kid, so you can yell at a kid. You can tell him to shut up. You're the adult, whatever. It's a good movie, and it's about where he just gets sent to this camp because he's framed for stealing shoes by a kid who's actually at the camp. That gets revealed later in the film. I'm not going to reveal the ending of the film, but Sigourney Weaver's in it. It's actually pretty good. John Voight, he's National Treasure is another great film. I would recommend that. What does this actually have to do with anything that I'm mentioning right now? Nothing, actually. I actually just wanted to tell you about this movie that I really like that I haven't seen in a while. I need to see if it's available anywhere. Holes, ladies and gentlemen. Disney classic Holes. RFK Jr. is launching a plan to limit the antidepressant prescription count. Listen, whether or not I know a lot of people maybe who are, and I know many non-RFK Jr. fans. Listen. He is an acquired taste, I will certainly tell you that. You have to realize that you have to listen to a lot of podcasts with him before you start to understand how his mind works. I started doing heroin at 18 years old. I was at the bottom of my class before I started using heroin, and then I jumped to the top of my class because I could finally sit still. You have to understand that this is a mind that works in the fifth, maybe sixth dimension. He's in parallel universes most of the time, getting information, getting the download codes from aliens beyond him. And they've told his family, they've been involved with his family for years, they've been giving them the codes on how to save humanity, and he's being downloaded with the codes to save humanity. And that's exactly why his voice box doesn't work. He downloaded too many at some point. It damaged one part. He had a short circuit moment, and one of the things that just didn't work right afterwards was the voice box, but he is loaded with the intellect. The brainworm that people talk about is actually one of the alien larvae that is powering him forth in the pursuit of true perfection of his species. And many of you are not working in the fifth or sixth dimension. Many of you are not able to see through the veil and actually perceive that. That's totally fine. We're going to make it work, but he's going to try to make sure that we are not clouded in this third dimension, more so the fourth dimension, with SSRIs. He is saying, fuck antidepressants. You're going to go out. You're going to stop being fat. Most of you are depressed because you're fat, or because you're broke, or because you have no love life, or because you're a loser. So get out, make some friends, and stop being a broke-ass bitch.
The Health and Human Services Secretary launching a new initiative over concerns doctors are overprescribing some popular medications.
Because they are.
As of 2026, roughly 44 million Americans take those pills. That's about 16.6% of adults. The number of people taking those medications surging over time. You can see this steady.
By the way, how many of those people that you know that take antidepressants, how many of them are better after they start taking them? Honestly, guess what? They're just slower and they're a little bit easier to deal with. But do you know why that is? It's because they're limiting their inner voice. They're limiting their true self. Eventually, they will find a way to deal with it. It sucks. You know what I mean? That's how depression works. But, the people that are pilled out most of the time, you see it. It's a glazed over look in their eyes. They kind of have motivation to get through the day, but not really do much. It's really a way to pacify the population. That's why so many people, it's pseudo therapy. By the way, therapy, the whole origin of that practice, the idea that behind it. Listen, if you think therapy is effective, good for you. Scientology is also effective for the people that believe in it. So I'm just going to say it, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to believe in what Sigmund Freud has been pushing, that look into his past is all I'll tell you.
Over 15 years right here, where it lands right now, the Secretary's push aimed at the most commonly...
If you hear that tone in the background of my recording, that is because there are tornado sirens that go off on the first Wednesday of every month.
Antidepressants including Prozac, Zoloft, Lexapro, and Paxil. Here to discuss is the New York Times' Ellen Berry, who focuses on mental health and is reporting on RFK Jr.'s new initiative. Ellen, thanks for joining Top Story tonight. So we want to ask you, can you walk our viewers through exactly what RFK Jr. is proposing and why?
He's proposing saving humanity.
Sure. He announced a number of initiatives yesterday, all of them focused on helping people to get off psychiatric meds. The first one is...
By the way, why is that bad? Why is it bad to want to wean somebody off of pills? Do you want people to be taking pills their entire lives? Is that something you'd prefer?
A mechanism that would allow providers to be reimbursed for helping patients stop taking medications or reduce them. The second is what's called a Dear Colleague letter, which just directly communicates to hospitals and providers that they should not look at pharmaceutical treatment as a default, but try to find non-pharmaceutical treatments like therapy, exercise, nutrition, etc.
Nutrition.
The third thing that he did is started in motion.
You bastards are just not drinking enough whole milk. Sorry to say it. That's actually the reason that so many of you are so depressed, is because you're not drinking whole milk. What's the issue? Drink your whole milk, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on to our next thing. Minnesota sent $67 million to 9 daycare centers that have been raided by federal agents, records are now showing. Is everybody still on the side? Like, is there anybody on the side that this is racist still? Like, is there any, like, real schmoes that are still out there going, like, hey, if you talk about this, you must really hate Somalis. You must hate those banana and rice eaters. It's like, will you shut up already? Like, are we done with these pseudo, like, you can't talk about races, you can't talk about nationality, it shouldn't even matter where somebody's from or what their cultural values are. I don't want to hear anything about child marriages or treating women like a second-class citizenship. I don't want to hear it. Everybody's equal, except for, like, when they treat somebody based on how they believe. Then it's just freedom of religion. I love how the overly liberal mind can just get itself into knots. It's an overly liberal mind. It's taking liberal so far that it horseshoes in and becomes inverted liberalness. It's like, oh, black people can't be racist. That is like an inverted liberal term. You know what I mean? It's like taking something to the stretch that it's like, oh, well, what are you even fucking saying at this point? Minnesota, $67 million. Is anybody going to call me racist for calling that out? I love it.
Tonight, just how much of your tax dollars flowed to those daycares raided by the feds last week? It was all part of a sweeping fraud investigation, and now Orion Raish is tracking the money with some eye-popping numbers.
I want to focus on those 9 daycares raided by the feds. We have learned the state sent them $67 million in the last 8 years.
6-7.
That's your tax dollars spent on this child care assistance program.
Do you like that, by the way? The Minnesotans, because I've had many Minnesotans call me out. They've been like, you shouldn't say that. Hey, you say a lot of nasty shit about Somalis and their tendency to steal. Well, you should shut up. We should shut up because you're being racist. $67 million. Do you like that? Are you comfortable with that? Are you comfortable with the fact that 89% of the people that have been practicing this form of fraud belong to that community? Are you chill about that? Are you chill about all of these details? Like, let me just take you through it. $67 million of taxpayer money, meaning that out of however many million people live in Minnesota. I believe it was like last 7 million people population. So 5.7 million. That's my mistake. Are you comfortable with this? You as a Minnesotan, 67 million. That means out of the 5 million, it's definitely touched you at least multiple times. It's definitely your creepy uncle. You've been a victim many times. The government has come and molested you for money for pirates to come and steal as much as they'd like. They've come and the uncle has been like, hey, come to this room. I know that mom says you're not allowed to go into rooms with me, but hey, I'm just going to show you like a little magic trick. And then you get led into the room and then you get molested for $67 million over the last 8 years. Are you comfy with that? Do you like that? Are you just like kind of a sadist? Or no, a masochist? Because a sadist enjoys other people's pain. A masochist enjoys their own pain. So are you a masochist? Do you love, man, I love getting robbed. I love when Uncle Owen takes me into the room and takes millions of my dollars in taxpayer money. I just love it. And then you deal with it. You got to take it to your therapist one day. You'll realize one day that it actually wasn't. That's not, the state is not supposed to love you like that. Sweetie, that's trauma. Sweetie, listen. That's trauma. The way you're telling me that he treated you right now, he was abusive. The state was abusing you, and they were stealing your money. And then, like, you start crying and whatnot, and I'm like, come here, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It was never your fault. Sweetie, it was never your fault.
Known as CCAP. There are no charges yet, so we don't know how much of that $67 million could be fraud. But what we do know may help us understand what investigators are looking for in all those boxes that agents hauled away. We look back at the last 8 years, but I want to focus on just the last 2 years in state data that we obtained. These 9 providers went from collecting about $8 million in 2023 to more than $16 million in 2025. That's more than double in just 2 years. But then look at this. The number of kids served remained relatively flat. A little fluctuation, but right about 1,000 kids every single year.
Yep.
Who's watching this? Nobody. Phil Krinke is a former state lawmaker, a small business owner, and a longtime watchdog with the Taxpayer League of Minnesota.
So I think voters are very frustrated with the entire situation. I don't think it's Republican, Democrat. They're just frustrated.
Frustrated, especially when the warning signs were there. In 2019, the legislative auditor warned state leaders about a lack of oversight. The report finding that, quote, program integrity controls are insufficient to effectively prevent, detect, and investigate fraud.
Yeah, this is, you told mom and dad. You told mom and dad about what Uncle Minnesota was doing. Uncle Minnesota kept coming and stealing your money. But you told mom and dad, and guess what? Mom and dad didn't believe you. They actually looked at you and they said, Uncle Minnesota wouldn't do that. Uncle Minnesota would never do that. Uncle Minnesota's a good... what are you saying about Uncle Minnesota? Are you saying Uncle Minnesota came in and molested you for $67 million? Do you realize you're talking about your father's brother? Shut up. Shut up. Shut up before I burn you with a cigarette. That is how the people of Minnesota are being treated right now. They are ratting out the person who has been mistreating them for years. And then they are getting a cigarette burn from mom and dad as a result. They're like, shut up, racist. Shut up, you racist. You sound racist for calling out your molesting uncle.
And if the bucket's empty in the morning, what do? You check to see if the bucket's got a hole in it. And there's nobody bothering to check that the buckets, they just keep dumping more water in.
Just like in CCAP. Now let's zoom out and look at this entire program. And keep in mind, this is a publicly funded program for families that can't afford childcare. Now since 2020, the state has paid out about $1.5 billion to all daycares who participate in this program. And look at this explosion. Back in 2020, they paid out about $188 million, and it shot up from there. Last year, they paid out about $367 million. Now, I've learned there are reasons for this, like an increase in federal funding, a change in the rate paid, and a new formula. But here again, look at the number of kids served. It stays relatively flat. About 30,000 kids every single year. The same issue came up the last time 5 Investigates interviewed former State Attorney General Lori Swanson.
Whether it's business, a school, a nonprofit, if something grows that much, it makes sense to ask why is it growing that much and how could it grow so fast?
But nah, these are the people with ducks on their walls and like poker games on Saturday. They have no reason to question the status quo. They grew up listening to they grew up watching the Andy Griffith Show, even though it took place many states away. They grew up with small town values, but also, they love getting their money stolen, and one day they'll wake up to the idea that it's actually a little hurtful to them. But like any person who's been hurt by a trusted figure, when you trust Uncle Minnesota and he betrays your trust like that, it's going to take years to recognize that that was not what love was. It was actually a deeply sick and twisted thing. And people will come to that realization. If you have someone in your life who is calling you a racist for bringing up the Somali pirates in your home state, the people who, by the way, when it comes to immigration status, they should have never been granted the temporary protected status. They should have never been granted any of that. The fact that you can't hold your country together and gave yourselves a civil war doesn't mean that it's our responsibility to save you from yourselves. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to come over here, maybe study something in one of our universities, that would be a little bit nice. But I'm not, we're not taking people fresh off the boat like that one Asian show. By the way, I watched the first episode of that with my fiance, turned it off immediately. I love Randall Park. I do love Randall Park, but I couldn't stand it. I'm sorry. It's white people jokes coming from Asian faces. Asians have become so far in this country, they're making white jokes now. They are the new white people. Asians are so successful and so good, they watched the model of the nuclear family and just like outperformed white people at it so hard. White people are living in fucking, turned out fucking, trailers and shit like that. Asian people are living in decent middle class, situations. I'm just saying, Asians, good for you guys. You guys really figured it out when you came and you conquered. You figured it out. You are the American way. Ladies and gentlemen, kudos to the Asians. That's the subtitle for this episode. I apologize for my stuttering. When I speak for a prolonged period of time, it's as though a bunch of saliva gathers in my throat and I have to take a drink of something. Coffee's great. Final story for the day, and I will release you to whatever it is this Wednesday demands of you. Thank you so much for being here so far. This has been a great collection of stories. I hope you've enjoyed them. And now it is time for dessert, ladies and gents. Put on the napkin, get your fork, because this one, it's going to be somewhat tragic, but in general, the theme for this is justice. A FedEx driver has been sentenced to death. Unfortunately, we don't have shooting galleries yet. We listen, this is going to be a rare Trump W when he brings back public executions and shooting pedophiles in public to teach people lessons. He's unfortunately not going to do that. He's going to die by lethal injection. So that's still dessert. And this is for the murder of a 7-year-old in Texas. Not very fun. Like I said, justice. It always comes out of tragedy at first. It's unfortunate, but still, guys, don't let it distract you from the lava cake of a pedophile dying by lethal injection. Let's go. A Texas jury has sentenced 34-year-old Tanner Horner to death for the 2022 kidnapping and the murder of a 7-year-old named Athena Strand. The decision, delivered Tuesday afternoon in a Fort Worth courtroom, followed nearly 3 weeks of agonizing testimony and less than 3 hours of jury deliberation. You needed 3 hours? Horner, a former FedEx contract driver, had pleaded guilty to capital murder last month, just as his trial was set to begin, leaving the jury to decide only between life in prison or the death penalty. Well, I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't love the death penalty. I've always been a person who I don't, at the core of my being, I don't support the idea that the government should be allowed to kill people. Is it thematically satisfying to see worthy people get it sometimes? Absolutely. Do I believe that rotting in a cell is a much preferable form of torture? In my personal view, yes. Especially if we limit you to the 2 meals a day type of person. We give you the Warden burger. I'm in favor of I understand it borders on cruel and unusual, but come on, guys, are you defending the pedophile's right to being protected from borderline cruel and unusual punishment? All right, whatever. The sentencing phase of the trial was marked by a bone-chilling evidence that left several jurors in tears. Prosecutors played more than an hour of audio and video captured by the internal camera in Horner's delivery van, which recorded the moment he lured the young girl into his vehicle and the brutal attack that followed. Horner initially claimed that he hit the girl with his van and panicked. The digital evidence and his later confession revealed a far more sinister reality. He strangled her to death to prevent her from telling her father about the accident that he had staged. In their closing arguments, Wise County prosecutors described Horner as a monster who had fantasized about such a crime, while the defense team unsuccessfully attempted to argue for mercy by highlighting Horner's autism diagnosis. Fuck the autistic, dude. Fuck the autistic, just like fuck the neurotypical, dude. If you're up to some shit, but you're like, oh, I'm neurodivergent. Fuck you, all right? You're annoying enough to deal with as is. Like, you make people get fucking, I need my toothpicks for my pancakes. I can't feel fucking certain textures. It's like, you already make people frustrated enough to be around you, and then you gotta go fucking killing people. After the verdict was read, Athena's uncle, Elijah Strand, addressed Horner directly in a powerful victim impact statement, telling the defendant that he was a footnote in Athena's story, and that while the world will celebrate her name, he would be forgotten. I mean, yeah, Athena, she was named after a warrior. It sounds like this young girl was a warrior. She was battle ready Athena, and you know what? Wherever, and I know that this is a jokey show. I genuinely do. This really does hurt my heart to see, and she was very strong. And it's deeply regrettable to see stories like this happen, and it makes me very happy to see this gentleman getting, in my view, a decent comeuppance. I don't, you know, when you're sort of at a loss for words and you're struggling to just kind of think of something to say. I'm sorry. This is one where I really just I don't know. Horner showed no visible reaction as the sentence of death by lethal injection was handed down. He will remain in Tarrant County Jail until he's transported to the state's death row in Huntsville. Under Texas law, his case will be automatically appealed to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, which I guess makes sense. You want to make sure that you're, killing someone who deserves to be killed. Process typically takes several years. For the rural community, though, of Paradise, the Strand family, the verdict is marking the end of a harrowing legal chapter that has haunted North Texas for nearly 4 years. I'm really happy to see this rightful judgment being handed down. Would I prefer to see him in a Guantanamo Bay-esque situation where we have you guys heard of the towel method? Ooh, this is one of my favorites. It's part of a CIA technique called learned helplessness, where eventually with a prisoner, you want them to be just scared of the idea of you taking the towel in your hands and gripping it. And like, you know how you wring a towel out? They're supposed to just quiver in fear at that, because here's how you get them scared. You take a towel, you wrap it up in your hands, and then you put it around their neck. And then normally, technically, according to the CIA manual, you're supposed to use a flat board, like a board with some give in it. But they were never doing that at Guantanamo Bay. They were using a concrete wall. And they would smash the person's head in, and it was called walling. And it was supposed to be like plasterboard, but as a result, concrete, you know what I mean? They got a little fucked up in the head, to the point where one of these guys can't even stand on trial. Now, am I saying that this would have been a fun thing to deploy on this gentleman for the sake of science? Maybe. I think that maybe we should have taken this Horner gentleman and then walled him a few times and then seen if, like Pavlov's dogs, if we grip the towel around him, if he just kind of quivers and shakes. I don't know, kind of fun, just in my personal point of view. Let's get the footage from The Independent. The Independent is... I was not talking about like an independent broadcaster, The Independent as in like the outlet.
Understanding jury has reached a verdict on both issues. Okay, you hand the police to Deputy King. Answers to special issues. Special issue number 1, whether there is a probability that the defendant would commit criminal acts of violence that would constitute a continuing threat to society. Answer, we, the jury, unanimously find beyond a reasonable doubt that the answer to special issue number 1 is yes, signed by the presiding juror. Special issue number 2, whether taking into consideration all the evidence, including the circumstances of the offense, the defendant's character and background, and the personal moral culpability of the defendant, there is a sufficient mitigating circumstance or circumstances to warrant that a sentence of life imprisonment without parole rather than a death sentence be imposed. Answer, we the jury unanimously find that the answer to special issue number 2 is no. Signed by the presiding juror. Does either side desire a poll? Ms. Anderson, Mr. Goble, is there any legal reason why a sentence should not be pronounced?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Horner, if you'd stand, please. It's the order of the court that you, Tanner Lynn Horner, has been adjudged to be guilty of the offense of capital murder as found by the jury. Jury having answered the special issues, making it mandatory that your punishment be death, it is therefore the order of this court that your punishment be death. Before the hour of sunrise on a date to be determined by this court, upon a mandate of affirmance issued by the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals at the State Penitentiary in Huntsville, Texas, you will be caused to die in accordance with the rules and regulations established by the Texas Department of Criminal Justice until you, said Tanner Horner, are dead. Said execution procedure shall be determined and supervised by the Director of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. The clerk of this court shall issue a death warrant in accordance with this sentence directed to the Director of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for that purpose. Clerk shall deliver such warrant to the Sheriff of this county and to be by him delivered to the Director of the Department of Criminal Justice together with you, and you will remain to the custody of the Terry County Jail to await transportation to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice at Huntsville, Texas, and the execution of this sentence. I will sign this death sentence as required by law. Your appeal of the finding of this guilt by the jury and their determination of the answers to the question in this sentence are automatically appealed to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals in Austin, Texas. You will be appointed a lawyer to represent you on direct appeal, and your lawyer will receive a copy of the record of this charge, of this case at no charge. You have the right to have a second lawyer to represent you on writs of habeas corpus. It's a separate matter.
Habeas corpus. I love that. I wonder who would know what that means. Ladies and gentlemen, it's good to see some justice being served in this world. We're not going to get it for the pedophiles, but, or at least most of them. I don't know if he raped her. Did he rape her? I just, who needs that detail right now? We're about to head out. We're about to get to the Wednesday, whatever it demands of us. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you enjoyed this collection of stories. I had a wonderful time gathering them for you. You have to laugh, otherwise you will cry. And that's just an important thing I love to detail to all of you. Take that through the rest of your life. Remember that if you do not smile, you will frown and you will cry. So, have fun with whatever craziness comes about your way. Come back if you'd like. We cover the news. We do what it is. Weekdays, Monday through Friday. Subscribe if you want more. Ring the bell for notifications and like if you liked it. In the meantime, I have been Ollie Vogt Larson with Your Brain on Air. Thank you so much for listening, and bye-bye.